Hi, I'm Matthew McCabe. Welcome to Miracle Voices. Each episode, we will be delving into stories of forgiveness, healing, and transformation that have come about from integrating the principles of the book A Course in Miracles. If you want to learn more about A Course in Miracles, visit www.acim.org. If you'd like to visit the Miracle Voices site, please go to www.miraclevoices.org. If you feel inspired to make a love offering, please visit us at miraclevoices.org/donate. All donations go to support the work of the Foundation for Inner Peace, the publisher of A Course in Miracles. Now here's your program. Just a quick note before we get started today. If you would like to submit your forgiveness story for consideration for the podcast, please go to miraclevoices.org/form. That's miraclevoices.org/form. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Miracle Voices. This is your co-host, Matt McCabe, here with my co-host, Tam Morgan. Tam, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. That was a great hello. It was
good.
very musical.
Oh, good.
Yeah. How are you doing?
To hear that. I was doing jazz hands as I did that. You think that helped?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Good.
I guess you're in a good mood today.
And our guest today is Donna Lee Humble. Donna Lee, welcome to Miracle Voices.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes, we are too. And tell us where you're sitting in the world to give us a sense of geography.
I live in beautiful Glenwood Springs, Colorado. It's kind of nestled between Aspen and Vail.
Oh, great. That sounds nice. A lot of wildlife up there. You got some moose and rams and things like that.
Oh, yeah. We have mountain goats all over the place. And, if you go up in the mountains, you'll see elk and deer and things like that.
That's good. And you're an avid aerial snowboarder?
I love snow. And coming from California, I didn't like snow. When we first moved here, I was like 14 years old. I'm like, now I love it. Snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, downhill skiing. It's just a blast when we get snow.
You're still avoiding the snowboarding question.
It's a soft no.
Let's great. Thank you for not making me answer that.
I think it's absolutely fine. I'm a skier and not a boarder.
Yes. Donna Lee, tell us how A Course in Miracles came into your life.
Wow. Let's see. I'm going to age myself here a little bit or date myself. I was in a difficult marriage when I was, about 25, 26 years old. I realized things were falling apart. And so I had to get a job. I had a couple of kids, and going to work with my friend who worked with me. We worked in Vail, and she brought a book called Love is Letting Go of Fear by Gerald Jampolsky. And we studied that book. It had like 12 little Course in Miracle lessons in it. And we studied that book every day to work on our commute. It was like a 40-minute commute. And that's how the Course came into my life originally. I studied that for, several years, probably 4 years or so, and began meditating. And thank goodness my therapist recommended meditation. He was a Buddhist. And then the little town I lived in, Eagle, Colorado, back then, was forming a Course in Miracles group. And it was like 1989, I believe. And that's when I officially started doing it with a group. We stayed together for an entire year in person, 20 people in this little town. Most of them were people who hung out at the bar and came in because they wanted some spirituality in their life. And so that's really how I officially got into A Course in Miracles. And I never looked back. It just spoke to me.
Wow.
I had a little story I'd like to share because I think it's important. I was working. I was a dental assistant, overworked and underpaid, all that stuff. And I had just gotten sober. We'll probably go into that a little bit more as we talk, but I was a 30-year-old, just getting sober person, really committed to the 12 Steps program. And I was having a spiritual crisis. I didn't know who to follow. Do I follow Buddhists? Because my therapist was a Buddhist, and I had been a church hopper. I tried this church and that church, and I was definitely a spiritual seeker. And I had, through that, I don't know if either of you have experienced sobriety, but through that first 2 months of sobriety, it was maddening and difficult and as hard as life could be, and depression was a constant. And I had been working late at the dental office, and I was so depressed, all I could do was pick up the instruments and sterilize them one at a time and focus on something I learned from a book called The Practice of the Presence of God, which said, do everything you do for the love of God. And that's all I could do in that moment was pick up an instrument, sterilize it, and do it all for the love of God, because I was so depressed, I couldn't do anything else. And in that process, I was alone at work. I looked to the right, and there was Jesus Christ standing before me, helping me with the dental instruments. And it was funny because he was stockier than I imagined, and he had a robe and sandals, and he didn't look like what I imagined, and that apparition kind of faded. And at that point, tears just streamed down my face, and I hadn't cried in years. So it was very meaningful. And I realized, oh, I'm supposed to follow Jesus Christ. And that, of course, I had a little bit of a course under my belt, and I said, that's the way to do it, through A Course in Miracles. And I never looked back.
That's not an everyday event. Yeah, that's out of pattern. And
At least not for you.
yeah, every well, I'd say most people. That probably had a lasting impact, I'm imagining.
Lasting to this day. Yes.
God, gosh. Okay. So you started to get in A Course in Miracles, and you notice your life changing in ways? If so, how?
Wow. I think the most thing for me was that I knew I found my way. And I didn't understand most of what I read in the Course in Miracles at that point, and I still don't, actually. But it's okay, because I know I trust it, and it's my way. I don't know how to explain that any better. I, of course, was meditating. I'd started meditating at 20 years old because of my Buddhist therapist, which I adored, and he got me meditating. And even though I didn't meditate long, I did it pretty much every day. Maybe I only did 5 minutes, but I think in correlation with A Course in Miracles, a big change was happening in my life that I couldn't even see yet.
I have a question. Just it's total sideline question because it just makes me curious. So you said this group of people who started this, the course group, like they were mostly from the bar. Were they alcoholics as well? Was it a joint kind of group crossover with 12 Steps, or was there no relationship to any of that?
Wow, that is a great question, Tam. I would say that we were softball people. We were on softball teams, and we'd go to the bar, and I didn't really mean bar people, but people that like to go to the bar after a
Huh?
softball game. And it's funny because there was one gal, our shortstop, I think. I was the third baseman. And she was heavily into A Course in Miracles, and I don't know how she got turned on to it, but she talked a lot of us from the softball team into it. So it was kind of a movement, and I wasn't gonna do it. It cost $20 a month, and I didn't have the money, I didn't think, and all of that, and it was the best thing this group ever did together, and I can't say I'm in touch with any of them, but I just know I've written a couple of books. I'm not sure you guys knew about that, but I do refer to them in that book because without that one person talking me into, kind of begging me to do the Course in Miracles, I wouldn't have done it.
Wow. Super spreader.
Thank you. Super spreader. Also, whether you talk to them or not, you're connected.
Yeah.
I mean, it launched all of you on some path.
I agree. Yeah. And actually, one person who'd moved, I think she was in Denver, when she saw my book, which references A Course in Miracles a lot, was one of those people that played softball and went to that Course in Miracle meeting that first year. And she was very much still into A Course in Miracles. So I think it was a movement in that little town. I really do.
Wow.
Interesting. You never know where it's going to show up.
Yeah. And Donna Lee, we'd love to hear your forgiveness story.
So I was raised in dysfunction. I mean, a lot of us can say that. My dysfunction was I was the eldest child of 5. My parents were extremely divorced. My father had a mental illness that caused him to become violent. And as the eldest, I was there to try to protect my siblings and, take the brunt of it myself and try to manage this mental illness as a little kid with my father while my mother was on the sidelines, very, very depressed. And so I couldn't go to her at the time. And so we went through a lot of this, and we went through a lot of hell, I'm going to call it. And many, many years as a teenager, my brother had committed suicide by that time, and he was just a year younger than me. And then I lost my mother when I was 20, and I believe it was, it sounds weird, but I believe her health was directly related to the extreme dysfunction that she endured at home. And she died very young of a heart attack. She was only 38 at the time. Then my father, so my father, who, most of us just hated because he was the violent one, right? He died of cancer. And then just a few years after that, my little sister was killed in a mysterious alcohol-related car accident that's still unsolved. But I lost 3 family members, and so I was pretty raw and in a lot of pain. And I wanted to blame somebody. After I got sober, it's like, I'm going to blame people. And I wanted to blame my parents. My mom, why didn't she stop this? And my dad for the violence that he perpetrated on us over and over and over again. It was a period in my life when I knew sobriety required letting go of resentment because, as we know, resentment leads back to relapse, and I didn't want to relapse. And so I tried everything to let go of my resentment. I tried begging, meditating, talking to therapists. I tried the 12 steps and working with a sponsor. I was very intent on letting go of this resentment, forgiving it, and I couldn't do it. No matter what I did, I could not do it. And as I continued reading A Course in Miracles, there was a passage, and I'm not sure where it is now, or maybe it was a whole section I believe it was in the text that talked about The only thing that's real is love. Everything else is an illusion. Nothing you experienced that was painful. I'm not doing a very good job of.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay.
For
Not,
following.
thank you. And all that is real is the love that you either gave or received. And that hit me between the eyes. I just almost stepped back and realized I could forgive because I remembered the love that I experienced as a child. There was lots of love in the midst of that chaos. There was mom and dad teaching us little songs and taking little trips, and dad would throw us up and catch us and tickle us, and there was so much love. And my mother would tell us the stories of our births, and there was so much love that I'd forgotten because all of that negative experience colored everything. Once I could focus on that and realize that's all that really mattered, forgiveness happened of its own accord.
Wow.
Mm.
So it was like an umbrella forgiveness, just over everything.
I think it started with forgiving my parents. And I'm still, I don't know about you guys, but I'm still working on forgiveness.
Oh yeah,
We're still here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Edward
But
Jerry Jampolsky, the author of that book, of Love is Letting Go of Fear, in his 90s, right before he passed, actually, he was walking down. He lived on a houseboat. He was walking down the dock, and someone said, "Jerry, how are you doing?" He said, "I'm still here. I'm still learning my lessons."
gosh, I wish I could have met him.
Yeah, he's
I,
great. He's great.
yeah, he probably was the first person that touched me and helped me find my way, because the churches I've been attending never worked out. They never panned out exactly for me, because I think the Christ I was looking for was the one that's talked about in many places, but in A Course in Miracles for me.
Mm. Well, I will say one of the incredible gifts that Jerry brought with that book that he did, Bill Thetford actually worked on it with him, one of the scribes of the course. Um, but but the course and Bill were extremely intellectual and sophisticated, and Jerry wanted to take the course principles and make them so anyone could understand them. Like, he put in cartoons, so like, a 6-year-old could understand them, and that was such a gift.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because so many people come to the course and are like you, like, can read it and still not understand it. They know there's truth in it and they do it. But Jerry did take it, and Gary Renard did a similar thing in another way,
Mhm.
through a story, really made it comprehensible on a certain level so that your gut could resonate. Oh, and then your mind could join in the beginning of its simplicity. No matter how complicated it is, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I needed. And if I had been shown A Course in Miracles at that age, I was 25 or 26, it would have blown me away. But this little book was my introduction, my entryway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it came from Jerry because he was not an intellectual and he had dyslexia as a child and always felt not smart.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like spirit just went, "Psh, let's give it through this way." And it was a magnificent job.
Wow.
Yeah.
So down in the workbook, it says, forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin. And in that view, all your sins forgiven. Do you feel in that seeing past the difficult times with your family, that you, in turn, everything that you felt bad or guilt about was removed?
Very good question, Matt. In that moment, like I said, I had a long way to go. But it was the opening point, and I'm still learning to forgive myself today. Maybe it's easier. No, I can't say it's easier. It just is. Oh, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Matt.
Well, I think the beauty of it is that when we forgive, we can just see that, hey, what I thought I did, I was blaming these people over here, whoever they are, whoever them is. And then once the story of them goes away, the story of what, you thought you did that you regret goes away too. I was wondering if you experienced that.
My ego is really, really, in my face. And I don't know if it's a personality trait of my own, but I have a hard time accepting that I made mistakes.
Yeah.
And so I think I wish I could say a light just turned on and all was well,
Mhm.
but I think I things come up that I did that I thought was unforgivable and that I had let go with my parents, but I can't quite let go for myself. And and I do have to work at that. And it helps to have my weekly A Course in Miracle meetings and my meditation. And as it comes up, not to pretend like it's not there, but for me to say, yeah, I feel like crap about this issue that I did, and realize that there's something I say to myself that helps me more than anything, but it's how do I guess I can share that. I say, "I love you as I remember God's love. I'm upset because I see something that isn't there. Please help me see beyond this lie. Thank you for my holiness and God's perfect forgiveness. Amen."
Mm, it's so beautiful. And also, I've found ways to kind of trick myself. There's different kinds of course practices that work at different times. And instead of sometimes focusing on forgiving myself for something that I think I did wrong and that I regret, I deeply go into remembrance that everything is perfect. And when I say everything, everything is perfect. So everything I did that even appeared to be wrong had its place and its lessons and its repercussions for everyone. And I am, I consciousness and source is so much bigger than I am, as appearing as me in this dream, that I trust that even my mistakes were perfect. So it's time to let them go and say, oh my God, that had its place, but who do I want to be now and who am I now? And it's more a remembering of who I am, not a remembering of the dream.
Well, that is so calming when you say that, and it's not helping anything by feeling badly.
Well, it's perpetuating. No, it's perpetuating the dream of the ego and the
Exactly.
guilt. And what I love about the course is it really says this course is not about teaching love because that's not what can be taught. It's about remembering who we are.
Mm.
So when you're in a place of being unforgiving of yourself or anyone, and you stop and you go, but actually, who am I really? Not in this dream. Who am I really? And then who you are really comes into this dream. That's where the happy dream starts to move forward. But it's just your ego going, I don't want to remember. Don't make me remember because then I will disappear, which isn't a truth either. It's not about
Abs-
disappearing. It's about coming in.
Mhm.
So if you switch it that time for your ego from forgiveness to remembering, it might dislodge the
Yeah,
fixation.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
Tam. And
Yeah.
it did, just to hear you say that helped me feel calmer about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything you did was perfect. Now move on. Wow.
Donna Lee, is there any particular A Course in Miracles passage or workbook lesson or anything from the book that you find yourself going back to over and over again, a quote that you'd like to share?
Wow. This book is so rich. What I love about A Course in Miracles is you can never learn it.
Mm.
Every time you read it, there's something new. And that's a miracle to me. But I have to say the rock for me is your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it.
Yeah.
And I will just jump in for a second and say, you can learn it. And the joke is that when you learn it, you're asked to forget it. It's a fabulous joke.
I
you
love
know?
it.
When you get it, you realize none of those words, none of the actions, none of
Uh,
anything has any meaning anymore. And it dissolves. And the course itself dissolves because you are that which you were seeking. And
Beautiful.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Donna Lee, when you get in ego storm or blizzard out there in Colorado, and it's just, it seems like all the course principles go out the window and you're just trapped in quicksand of your own ego. Is there anything practical you do to get back on track, to get recentered?
Um, hmm. Meditation, coming into the present moment instantly, no matter where I'm at, um, looking at the flake of snow falling down and just being with inside my body and what I'm seeing, hearing, smelling. That is my go-to. And to me, that's connecting with source.
Hmm. And Donna Lee, what is your favorite comfort food?
Mhm.
So this was
Nothing
an
healthy.
interesting question for me, along with my alcohol issues. I had an eating disorder. And so I overate those really good comfort foods to the point that didn't work anymore for me. And I went to Whole Foods and intuitive eating, which is sort of like meditative eating and really loving everything that you're eating and being with it fully. And so when I thought about this, the first thing that came up was ice cream, of course, right?
Yes, yes.
Not any particular flavor, just ice cream of any kind. But when I thought about it, now the comfort food, and I can only get it in the summer around here, is watermelon, ripe,
Mm.
fresh watermelon with a little salt on it. Oh my gosh, I could just
That's a good idea. Never put salt on it before. That's smart.
oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, perfectly ripe watermelon and peaches too. Like there's just
And
nothing.
Mm.
I have to say with the watermelon, like I love it cold.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Like not just warm watermelon, but actually cold watermelon,
Mm.
fresh is just, oh my God, it gets to me. It's I don't have to drink water. I just eat that,
Yeah.
which
Ooh.
isn't true, but I tell myself that.
My husband loves it cold, but we grew it in Northern California and would eat it right off the vine, so I like it
Oh,
warm.
oh, yeah. Okay. I think if I had it on the vine, I might shift that perspective, but I may add a little heavy cream to it.
Well, Donna Lee, you mentioned that you have some books you've authored. Do you want to share with listeners how they can find you and find your books?
Oh, sure, thank you for featuring that. Through my pain, I guess that's how we get here sometimes, I wrote a couple of books that I didn't mean to, but they just kinda came through. I have to give Holy Spirit the credit for this. But the first book is Seek Not for Love. And that second book would be Peace Beyond Belief. They're both available on Audible, Kindle, Amazon print copy, and I think Barnes & Noble now.
Well, we'll include that in the show notes so people can find it. And Donna Lee, thanks so much for coming on Miracle Voices and sharing your miracle voice. We really appreciate it. Well done.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
You guys are so easy to talk to. I feel like I have a couple of friends.
You do.
You do. Yes.
You do.
Oh.
Thanks so much for listening today. Please subscribe to Miracle Voices by hitting the subscribe button on your podcast app. If you are enjoying these conversations, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you use. And lastly, please visit us at miraclevoices.org and join our newsletter so we can stay connected. Until the next podcast, I want to leave you with my favorite course quote, "When you want only love, you will see nothing else."